You don't choose the same person by accident. You might believe that you do. You tell yourself it's coincidence, bad luck, timing. But repetition is never random. What changes is the face. What changes is the story. But what stays the same is the feeling. The same disappointment, the same absence, the same waiting, different names, different bodies, same ending. And this is not a mistake of choice. It is not a lack of intelligence. It is something much deeper, something familiar. We are drawn to what we already know, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The mind does not search for happiness first. It searches for recognition, for what feels known, for what feels coherent, for what feels like home. And sometimes home was not safe. Sometimes home was inconsistent, silent, unpredictable. So later, in adult life, we don't look for love. We look for the same emotional climate. You might say, I don't want this anymore. And you may be honest. You may be sincere. But desire does not listen to intention. Desire listens to memory, not conscious memory, emotional memory, the kind of memory formed before you had words. Why does calm feel boring to some people? Why does availability feel suspicious? Why does stability feel empty? Because it does not match the internal script. The psyche does not ask, is this good for me? It asks, does this feel familiar? What we repeat is not the person. It is the position of waiting, the position of trying harder, the position of hoping this time will be different. But different rarely arrives when the structure stays the same. In psychoanalysis, we say repetition is an attempt to return to the original scene. We repeat because unconsciously we believe that this time something will change. This time they will stay. This time they will see me. This time I will be enough. But the unconscious is loyal to the first experience. It recreates it again and again and again. And here is the difficult truth. You are not choosing the other person. You are choosing yourself inside a familiar role. A role that once protected you. A role that once made sense, but no longer needs to exist. So why is it so hard to stop? Because letting go of repetition feels like losing who you are. If suffering was part of how love was learned, then love without suffering feels unreal. If distance was normal, closeness feels invasive. If you had to adapt to be loved, being chosen freely feels undeserved. This is why understanding is not enough. You can understand everything and still repeat, because repetition does not live in thought. It lives in the body, in expectation, in silence. Change begins not when you meet someone new, but when you tolerate something unfamiliar. Calm, presence, consistency. At first it may feel wrong, not because it is wrong, but because it is new. So the question is not, why do I always choose the same person? The real question is, what part of me is being repeated? And what would happen if that part was finally allowed to rest? You don't have to answer. Silence is also an answer.